I'm just going to double check with John that we're good? Okay, great. Really glad to have folks here today. Before we get formally started, a couple of housekeeping items and some gratitude out to folks. Kevion Ellis is in the back. He is part of our team as our program manager. We wouldn't have today's event if it weren't for Kevion, so thank you for all the hard work of getting everybody here today and just generally for being awesome. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about Grid Catalyst, Kevion is a great place to start today. He's more fun to talk to than me anyway. I want to thank our sponsor, Full Stack. If you're not familiar with Full Stack, they are a big part of the innovation engine for the city of St. Paul. They really work collaboratively between the city of St. Paul in planning and economic development and the St. Paul Chamber of Commerce. And they're really working hard to make St. Paul a tech innovation center. And luckily, Mary Rick on that team has a background in sustainability, so she's always a really good go-to partner for us when we're thinking about energy, clean tech, climate, all of those favorite topics. So thanks for Full Stack for making today possible. I also want to thank our co-hosts, the American Association of Blacks in Energy and the Women in Renewable Industries and Sustainable Energy.
Thank you for getting that right. That's a lot.
Okay. You know, it helps with the, I've practiced enough with the writing out the letters. So if anybody from RISE or Abe is here and would like to come up and give a quick, yes, please. You want to come up?
Oh, sure. I can speak into the mic or just yell.
No, let's, for the recording, this helps.
For the recording. Yeah. Hi, my name is Kristen Swenson. I work at First Mile Development, and I am a longtime member and supporter of RISE as an organization. RISE is present across the U.S. We are a nonprofit organized to help women get ahead in the renewable and sustainable energy space. We are really a community focused on creating community, supporting each other, advancing our careers in renewables. We used to be called WOWI when we were the Women of Wind Energy, which I thought was a great name, but as happens in lots of careers, people moved into solar, and then they moved into battery, or they moved into car charging, or whatever they moved into. So we rebranded, we're RISE, we're covering all those industries, making connections. We have a very active Minneapolis chapter, so everyone is welcome to come. It is open to people of all genders, so everyone is welcome to come to our events. We have a lot of really great educational events. You can find us at riseenergy.org, and then sign up for the Minneapolis or Twin Cities chapter, and then you'll get our emails on our events. So for example, we have an event coming up for which I was not prepared to give you the dates, but I can give them to you in a moment if you want to meet me after. We're having a social at Bread and Pickle. So we're going to do a walk around Lake Harriet and then do a social. It is a great opportunity to meet people. Everybody's welcome. Pets and kids and families are welcome to go for a walk and then meet us at our cupcake social. So I know I am in charge of cupcakes, so it's in my calendar somewhere to make sure that we get that done. So please, if you have any interest in RISE at all, I would heavily recommend looking it up. I have been a member of the organization for more than 15 years, and I have met some of my best friends through that organization and really advanced my career by talking to the women that I've met across the country. So thank you very much.
I'm so glad you were here. Thank you. Fantastic. As a woman in energy myself, I can't say enough how much I valued these types of organizations and having someone who understands your experience a little bit more uniquely. That does matter, and that representation matters. And the education program you all have been doing this year is really fantastic. So we will send out, I can send that out as a follow-up to the event today. Okay, great. Just one more moment, and then we will get to our awesome speakers. So you already know there's coffee, water, snacks in the back. I'm going to send them home with you if it's not gone. There's some tea on the side. The bathrooms are on the other side of the kitchen space if you walk directly out this door and then past the kitchenette to the left. We are recording today, so if you're like, wow, this is so fantastic and I want to send it to 10 of my friends, awesome, we can make that possible for you. We'll send out the recording after we're done. I have some questions prepared for our wonderful speakers, but certainly would love to take questions from you, so be thinking of them as we go, and we'll take some time at the end. One last thing I just want to mention before we get going here is the FounderCurious event has a lot of purpose and a lot of personal connection for me as we will work through this. So I want to ask the group a question. Who here is in their role and in the work that they do because you want to make a difference? All right, that's a pretty good. Okay, hands down. Who here would consider themselves a change maker? Who here would consider themselves an innovator? Who here has thought about starting a business? Oh, that is a really good showing of hands. Who here would call themselves an entrepreneur? Okay, these are way more than I usually see in a room, so that's really fantastic. We did an event like this 2 years ago, and I would say first half of the questions, lots of hands. Second half of the questions, not very many hands. There is something about starting a business and taking the leap that we know is a little scary, a little risky, and even people who do it don't always immediately own, I'm a founder, I'm a change maker, I'm an innovator. It's like we will do the actions, but we don't always internalize the identity of it. And I think that's really important, especially as we think about underrepresentation in the energy industry. It is a significant underrepresentation of women and people of color. They receive significantly less funding when they start businesses from private capital. We have things and challenges we need to overcome. So the more folks that are showing up, the more folks that are trying to really ease themselves into that identity and that opportunity, I think really matters. So if you didn't raise your hand, that's also okay, because most of you raise your hand about wanting to make a difference, and I think that's a part that really, really matters. So maybe you'll leave here thinking about, how do I take the things I learned from these 3 amazing people and put it into the work that I do, even if you don't start a business? I don't want to leave with the message of one is valued higher than the other. Just don't write yourself out of the story. That's really the important part. So for me, when I left working for a utility for 13 years and started Grid Catalyst, I would write the word founder, but I don't really think I thought of myself as that. I was like, well, I'm just doing this thing, right? I'm starting this organization, and calling myself an entrepreneur, calling myself a founder felt weird. 3 years in, I'm a little more comfortable with it, but what matters is what we do, right? So yes, try and work on that identity, own all your goodness and all your capabilities, but don't be afraid of taking that big idea somewhere, no matter what role you have. So I'm gonna just gently get down off my soapbox. And I'm gonna thank our patient, our very patient, hold on one second here, sorry, speaker bios. Our very patient speakers. Usually when I do introductions, I let them totally introduce themselves and I focus on some anecdote that will probably embarrass all of them. But today I'm not gonna do that, and partially because they've all just done such amazing things and they may not readily tell you that. So if I read their bios, it's a great way to like really cover some ground. And then I'll let them all personally introduce themselves. So Bob Blake is the owner of Solar Bear, pronounced Gizi O Makwa in Ojibwe. Bob can probably pronounce it better with all the practice he's had. A solar development company located in Minneapolis. He's also the executive director of Native Sun Community Power Development, a nonprofit also located in Minneapolis. He's a tribal citizen of the Red Lake Nation. His passion is spreading the word about renewable energy through communication, cooperation, and collaboration. And the anecdote is every single person who's ever been in a room where Bob has spoken has left inspired, 100%. There's not even like a fraction in there, just one of the most amazing people. Abby Finnis on the end here has worked on climate solutions with state, county, and local government for more than a dozen years. She has deep experience in energy and climate research and analysis, stakeholder facilitation, state and local regulatory authorities, and program implementation. She works on state, regional, and local planning initiatives to drive greenhouse gas emission reductions while improving local economic conditions and achieving a quality of life for all, particularly for the most under-resourced communities. Prior to starting Local Climate Solutions, Abby worked at the Great Plains Institute, where she became the go-to technical assistance provider for government entities seeking to advance climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. She began her career in energy and climate planning at the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Division of Energy Resources, implementing energy efficiency and clean energy programs through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. So interesting to now be in 2024 and be like, hey guys, in 2008 and 2009, we did some wild stuff. It's pretty cool. Along with Larry Kraft, Abby hosts a podcast called City Climate Corner. I'd absolutely recommend folks check it out. Fantastic interviews, fantastic insights, and just generally they're fun people to listen to. She holds a master's degree in urban and regional planning from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs and a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Oregon.
Next time I won't give you a book to read. Sorry.
I mean, but don't be sorry, because that's a whole heck of a lot of career accomplishments, and I'm going to read them and make you embarrassed. Dwayne Caldwell, last but not least here on the end, visionary founder and CEO of NSPI, which I've been saying wrong, I think, since we met, an AI-enabled virtual power plant platform that is transforming the landscape of renewable energy and grid resilience. His journey into the world of clean energy began during his military deployment, where he first encountered the practical benefits of solar energy. As the only soldier with a solar pack to charge his DVD player, Dwayne recognized the immense potential of renewable energy solutions. Fueled by this early experience and a deep understanding of the energy challenges faced by low-income communities, Dwayne founded his first solar company with the aim of developing community solar gardens in underserved areas. Although initial efforts faced stiff competition from real estate developers, Dwayne's entrepreneurial spirit and resilience led him to pivot towards resilient residential and commercial solar projects, also resilient, where he found significant success. He has over a decade of experience as a business owner and has navigated the complexities of the energy sector, which, how many folks here are in energy specifically? So you know, like, that it does not come easy. His leadership at NSPI is characterized by a commitment to lowering energy costs for communities and empowering businesses that support those communities. His passion for entrepreneurship is matched by his dedication to diversity and inclusion, ensuring that NSPI fosters an environment where all voices are heard and valued. I'm gonna stop there. So amazed that we have these three folks here. And before we get to their first question, I also will just note, we don't have the biggest clean tech and energy ecosystem in Minnesota. We're on the rise, without the W's, but we're up and coming, and I think we have a lot of potential. But I also think it's really important that we pay attention to, again, that representation. So when we have founders coming up, if you're not a founder, figure out how to support a founder, especially when it's these three amazing folks. So you've all sat patiently. I'm going to start with Abby. Anything we missed that you want to say? Otherwise, just say hello and talk about how you first got started with Local Climate Solutions.
Yeah, I don't know that. Am I on the mic? Okay, great. I can't hear it. Boy, I'm just like, man, I just copy and pasted what's on my website, I think, and sent that to you. But try to
Sounds like a good website.
Version. So Local Climate Solutions, I started a couple of years ago. As Nina mentioned, I'd been working in this space since about 2009. And coming out of grad school, I saw this connection between climate change and urban planning. That was my background. And so I was very lucky that in an economic recession, there was money being poured into governments from the federal government through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And so that's really where I kind of launched my career in working with local governments on climate stuff. Then it was renewable energy, energy efficiency, but it's something that I think really started getting local governments to think about what their role looks like in energy, in climate, and what role that can play in their communities. And so, developing my career through that, networking, getting to know folks, getting to know the policy, getting to know the technologies, all of those kinds of things. I wouldn't say like early on necessarily, I was like, I want to be a business owner and get into this space. But, through my career, having folks like Brian Ross, who's been driving home the idea that this renewable energy is an economic development tool for communities. Bob Blake will say that too. It's an economic development tool. It's something that can really support cities financially and improve the quality of life of people living there. So, I go through the evolution of my career, and around 2013-14, back when we were young energy professionals, there were a few of us who were ready for the next challenge and thinking about what we wanted to do, what the landscape looked like. I was very interested in this emerging field, I think, of local government climate action. It was kind of spotty around that time, so there wasn't really a strong field in that space. But there were three of us who got together and were like, well, what does it look like to start a business? And we called ourselves the Quishiwi Kids off of a lake up in the Boundary Waters. So this was Michelle Vegan and Carl Samuelson and myself, who was in this little group. And I don't know if any of you know these folks, but Michelle was the first to actually take the leap and start her own business. I think she just had the fifth birthday for Common Spark, which is a consulting firm out in California where she's at now. And I'm so incredibly proud of her. And she was I think she was the original inspiration behind me thinking maybe I can do this too. And then of course Nina left her job and started Grid Catalyst and took that leap. And it was another sort of you can do this. So I worked for Great Plains Institute for 7 years. Built up that network, built up that trust with communities, especially in Minnesota and a little bit in the Midwest, and decided to take that leap. And I had kind of my first job. I had a little bit of savings built up to be able to get my footing in place, and that was with the city of Hopkins. And from there, I've found success in this space. I've been able to carve out a name for myself. People are starting to stop emailing me at Gmail and start using my local climate solutions email. And so now I'm at this point. I'm 2 years into owning a business, and then it's again that thing like, do I call myself an entrepreneur? It's really hard to say that word for me, just like actually, because there's so many vowels. But yeah, so it's kind of figuring out, what am I in this space, and it's really just kind of cool to see this area grow a lot. And so I just feel very fortunate with my timing, with the people around me, to be able to have taken that leap and start this business. So I consult with local governments on climate. That can be climate action planning. I write a lot of federal grants, and I'm really most interested in implementation and deploying a lot of the plans that we've put in place over the last several years. So,
A fantastic example of taking your expertise and putting it into your business. Mr. Bob Blake.
I was managing nightclubs in downtown Minneapolis. So I was the guy with the suit, and hey, I'm the guy that comes and talk to you and everything. Yeah, that was me. And I was taking classes at Minneapolis Community College, or Minneapolis Community and Technical College. It was MCTC back then. And took a business management course. And one of the things was to write a business plan. And I wrote a business plan called Solar Bear. And right about that time too, my brother passed away. My brother was a Minneapolis police officer. And he was that guy that, there was a crime committed this evening. He was that guy that was always on TV, so everybody knew my brother. And it's kind of hard because growing up in a law enforcement family, I was supposed to be a cop actually, and so when he passed away, I ended up becoming the surrogate father to his kids, and I just got the idea that I don't have kids, and now I'm becoming like the surrogate parent. I had this unbelievable protective feeling that came over me. Like, I got to make the world a better place for these kids. And I just thought to myself, well, I'll just solve the climate crisis for these guys, and do them a solid, right? And I'll do it. And so I was, just things sort of came easy to me in life, just, I don't know, things just happened for me. And I really didn't have to really work too hard at just doing everything. It just sort of just happened for me. And here I was creating this business plan now, and I got grief. Grief is weird. I was overcome with grief with my brother. My brother was my best friend when he passed away, and so here I am struggling with all this. And all of a sudden, one day, I had this I dreamt of this polar bear with sunglasses, and and he was literally I was talking to an imaginary polar bear with sunglasses, and he was like, "Hey, you should start a solar company. Hey, you should fight climate change." Giving me all these ideas, because I don't think if I didn't have him telling me that, I don't know if I would be here today, honestly. And he goes, "Hey, you should really do a solar project, in Red Lake. You should create a tribal utility. This is how you fight climate change. This is how you battle, drug addiction, alcoholism that's plaguing the community. And at the root cause of it is poverty." And all these things, I was the solar bear was telling me this stuff. And I was like, okay. Now, thinking back to that now, right? My brother was the person who was always the inspiration to me, right? He was the big tough cop, and he was always the guy that was always making me strive to be better in my life. And I feel like now, looking back at all that, I feel like Solar Bear replaced him, because in grief, you go to some dark places. And I can honestly tell you all right now, and this is the first time I'm saying this to folks, but Solar Bear saved my life, because I got to that spot where I just didn't think that I should be here anymore. And Solar Bear really pulled me out of that, right? And so I guess why I'm telling you all this is because some of you are trying to create your paths and whatnot. And I can't tell you how to do it, but these divine things will happen, and they've happened to me ever since. And they've really sort of charted this course, from taking off taking off a solar system. I think it was for a case of beer. I think I did that for. I think that first case of beer was for a case of beer, and now negotiating. Negotiating 400 megawatt type projects now. You know what I mean? Ridiculous. That's how it all happened for me. And then I did a project where we trained some inmates at Willow River Correctional Facility, and I started getting people that wanted to donate to me. And then I had to start Native Son, because I had all these folks that were trying to donate to me. And so it was training inmates. So fighting mass incarceration with climate change, fighting climate change or mass incarceration, got me on stage with Al Gore, and and that Native Son. Then we were actually protesting the Line 3 up in northern Minnesota, and Dakota Access Pipeline. We were over in Standing Rock doing that. And then I thought to myself, well, if they're going to build pipelines, well, why don't we build an electric vehicle charging network and let people make that decision of whether or not they want to continue to drive vehicles or they want to drive electric vehicles. And so this was another form of Native resistance. And then Native Son just took off like that. So now, literally, I'm on this holding on to both of these organizations, trying to corral them because they're just going off like this. And I had another idea about creating a tribal utilities commission. I actually wrote a paper that was graded by Katie Sieben, the public utilities chair. And she said, "Bob, this is a great idea." This is when I was in grad school. And all this time I'm creating Native Son and Solar Bear, and I'm finishing up my policy degree. And she says, "You should do this." And I ended up talking to Catherine Blavant with the Commerce Department, and she was like, "Let's do this, Bob." And sure enough, we got that passed legislatively last year. And so I got a call from Nick Friends, and he was like, "Bob, this is getting done." So it was great. So I just, all these things, I'm just telling you all that you're thinking about, you want to do this, or you want to just put your foot forward and just go for it, because that's really how all this happened for me. So
What did I say? 100%. 100% of people leave inspired after Bob. Dwayne, tell us about how Inspire got off the ground.
Yeah, so I came to energy and entrepreneurship through kind of a unique way. About 12, 13 years ago, I left the military and dealt with a lot of challenges from all of my deployments. So basically, when I came back, I didn't have really a good idea of what I really wanted to do. And entrepreneurship was one of the things that allowed me the freedom as well as some of the time. So I initially started a marketing company, was one of my first companies. And through that is how I was reintroduced to clean energy. And working with some of the developers as well as solar farm owners, I realized a lot of the times they would go avoid going to underserved areas. So that is pretty much not allowing the access to clean energy or the awareness. So after a few years, I sold that company and ended up starting my solar company, Next Light Energy. And after going through years of trying to really get projects off the ground, we ended up pivoting to more of commercial projects, where that's where I built the experience working with C&I customers. Through learning and feedback doing that, I started to learn that a lot of those mid-sized market customers really didn't have the visibility or understanding of energy. So I kind of had to go back to the drawing board to figure out how do we actually help these customers, being that a lot of the C&I customers weren't really participating in clean energy, nor are they participating in the markets. And that's where I really came up with the concept of Inspire about 4 years ago. And ever since then have been working, learning, and kind of really just figuring out ways that we can continue to improve the grid as well as offer access and get back to helping the community provide clean energy. So kind of a long journey, but not direct journey to kind of the software side of clean energy.
Dwayne, were you one of those folks who was like creating 10 businesses when you were still in school?
Yes. I had a business in the military that I would sit on my computer, use my charging station overseas for.
That reads. Yeah. Okay, great. So let's talk about what are some of the unexpected aspects of the journey. As much as we want to encourage people to think about entrepreneurship and business ownership, nobody is here to tell you it's super easy. It's not a fair way to tell the story. It's really looking at what's unexpected, what surprised you as you were getting started. And I'm not going to call on anyone, but anybody want to share something from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red tape. So getting into energy, I thought it was going to be more of I have an idea, I'll find some interested stakeholders that want to really get in and help build and launch something. And I had this idea in my mind that this is a great idea. We'll have something deployed within 6 months. We'll just hurry up and move fast. And then getting into energy and learning that you have to have buy-in from multiple stakeholders that have different goals, and as well as there's city red tape, there's enterprise red tape. So that was kind of the biggest surprise, as well as a little discouraging initially when I had this big idea to get something built, get something launched, and be in the market. So that was something that I should have prepared better for.
Oh, thanks. Bob or Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I want to tell y'all, like, this is me, right? But you got to have people that support you. You got to have people that work with you, because you can't get this work done alone. I can think about my program director, Lisa Daniels, who, was in Windustry and did that for years. Her family's Archer Daniels Midland. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, she does not have to work for me, and she does not have to argue with me, because, Native Son would not be where it's at if it wasn't for Lisa, So, that it's having really good people around you, you know, it's that saying, the good draws to it the good, you know? And I think that's why I've been able to kind of get together a team that is really focused on accomplishing, you know, which seems to be surmountable, I mean, to me in my mind, because I dream up these grand visions and, you know, and they have to execute it. You know what I mean? And so they're like, "Are you sure, Bob? Like, this is what you want to do?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to do this." You know, there's the scene from Star Wars, you know, Han Solo's going through the asteroid field, right? And that's like me. I'm like, never tell me the odds, you know? And everyone's just kind of like, "Okay, we're going to fly with Bob." You know, Ralph Jacobson, you know, he does business development for me. Yeah, he sold his company for, I think, 190 million. There's an award named after him at Mencia called the Ralphie Award for the Lifetime Achievement Award. He doesn't have to work for me, you know. So, I mean, and there's multiple individuals. You know, Scott Tracy, you know. He doesn't have to work with me. You know what I mean? And so I those are the things that have really been surprising to me. And then the multiple of people that are around the country now, that I'm working with now. You know, Brett Isaac out of Navajo Power, you know, Donald Williams out of the Umatilla Nation. Oh my God, so many great Native people. You want to know something real? I want to say this real quick too. I was down to my last $20 one day, and this is before I start getting these big checks, right? And Winona LaDuke gave me a check, and I was really contemplating on whether I should. This was earlier, because y'all are going to go through this too, like as you're trying to like get capital and like, you know, pay Paul to Peter and everything, right? And Winona gave me a check for $5,000. And I was in the Holiday Station up at Detroit Lakes, and I was putting gas in my car, and I was thinking to myself, do I have enough to get a Coke, you know, like for the drive back home? And I looked at the check, and wow, you know what I mean? And it's those people that are like, that's what's surprising. People are going to support you. People are going to like come through at your weirdest moments. And it's just, I would not be here without all those people in my corner, honestly.
Bob, do you think it's fair to say that almost everybody you listed is there because of the vision? Like, you lay out a vision and the way you come to it? Because I just think for folks, when you're thinking about your story and how you show up, Bob shows up with this authenticity and like genuine commitment to his mission. That's why I want to be around you.
Well, and you know, and this is my neighborhood, everyone. I grew up here. I went to St. Paul Central. You know, like, you know, I mean, I think of like all the like my friends and like, you know, like, I mean, this community raised me, you know. Katie McGuat, you know, her name's on the street down here. I wouldn't have got through Central if it wasn't for Katie. Oh my God. You know, like all these people that have just along the way, right? You know, have just like, and there's a picture of me. The guy to the right of me died. You know, he was in a situation with drugs, and the other person, you know, to the left of me, you know, killed a couple of people on East 7th Street in a robbery, and I'm in the middle, you know, and I spent every day with these guys, and I just think about that, like they are now. I'm here, and you know, there's a you gotta pay it forward and you gotta pay it back.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Abby, anything unexpected you share?
Yeah, I appreciate both of these perspectives and kind of the things that can kind of get in your way, and then the things that open doors for you. And I think for me, you know, I've held on to this belief that local governments are kind of key to solving climate. And, you know, I think we're at this point where we're like, can we just get there? Can we just get there? You know, like fast forward and get there. But if we take a moment to kind of look around and just think of all of the tremendous work that's happened in the last 15 years, like we're really on our way. And to me, you know, the unexpected part is like how fast things are actually moving when we take the time to consider it. And so I think what's unexpected is that we've come to this point now where things are really coming together. So we have like grid catalyst who's putting investors into, these companies that are emerging these technologies. Well, who's going to deploy those technologies? We've got local governments that are like, yeah, we want to try, we want to pilot it, we're ready to go. Thermal energy solutions are getting there. Someday I'm going to get my air to hot water boiler.
I don't have it. And she looked at me like, I have it. I don't have it. I'm not
I'm just
keeping it
like,
from her.
please find the company that's going to do that. So we have all of these pieces that have sort of been moving separately that I really think are starting to come together and are starting to see the different ways that we can work together. We need the software solutions. We need the installation to happen. We need the people who are going to be receptive and want to try these things out in their communities. And so to me, what's been unexpected is to actually kind of look around and be like, all right, we're at the precipice. We're like there. We're so close. And so that I feel like is awesome and encourages me that, yeah, I'm on the right path and in the right place. So,
Thanks, Abby. So this is, an adjacent question. We want to, again, be honest about the entrepreneurial experience, and we know energy is a complicated field to be doing these things anyway. But any particular hurdles that, you figured out a hard problem or you got through a hard stretch? And I know you already told some of those stories, but that you were just ready to high five every single person you saw on the other side of that, like overcoming that challenge. Any of those stories you'd share?
Yeah.
We can be real about the struggle.
Yeah, just just interconnecting that first project on top of the Red Lake Government Center. It's shaped like an eagle. It went all over. By the way, I had no idea this thing was going to go all over the world. You know what I mean? I was doing podcasts with people in Europe, and they're so inspired by the eagle and the solar on top of it. And, I wasn't prepared for all that. But, the interconnection, I understand, we're in the country. We're in the northern Minnesota. It's not, something that they're interconnecting. You know what I'm saying, Jay? Like it's not something that they're dealing with, and so that was really difficult for them. And I was just told by my chairman the other day. They said, Bob, I just talked to Beltrami Co-op, and they say that you're not going to get this done. And, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm going to get this done, because time and time again, I've already completed 4 solar projects in Red Lake, and at True North is going to do the schools now up there. And so really excited. But those are the things like, and Beltrami County is the only county that wouldn't allow refugee resettlement. They're under federal investigation by the FBI for, someone people dying in their custody in the jail. So you have to understand what Red Lake is dealing with. We don't call it the Deep South, we call it the Deep North up there. You know what I mean? And so dealing with that in the mindset, right, it is really difficult. And that has been something that I've had to work through and get done. It's a work in progress. But nobody knew that, Pete Wyckoff and, Senator Tina Smith were going to come up with this grand, amount of money to give to tribal nations, right, to do all this renewable energy work, $40 billion, right? This is, talk about like perfect timing. Bob Blake is just in the right place at the right time, right? I have the right chairman, I have the right government, I have the right folks in Washington, and I have, Lieutenant Governor Peggy calling me. You know what I mean? Just the right folks in the right spots. You know what I mean? And we have the blue Senate, the House, and everything. So just everything just happening where this can all happen. And that's what I've been surprised about, and this is meant to be. Yeah. And we're gonna save the planet.
Don't forget to save the planet. Yeah. Other challenges?
Captain Planet was the original inspiration. I took this question as like actually the business side of it. And so I think the challenges for me have been the business side of it, and like dealing with the administration and knowing what the tax laws are, and all the insurance you have to have, and just different things that come up that are unexpected. And I think, they come up, but there's always people there to help out. The state has really great resources. If you know people in the industry, you could talk to them about, have you faced this challenge? What did you do about it? Those kinds of things. So leaning on folks like Nina, like Michelle, and learning from their experience has been really helpful. But it's just, there's so much that you don't even realize. And then the more successful you are, the more this admin comes your way. And then you have to start making decisions around like, do I continue to do the administration? Do I hire it out? What are some of those choices that are there for that? And so I think that can be burdensome and like you don't want to do it wrong, right? You don't want the IRS coming after you. You don't want those things to happen. And so it's been a bit to navigate, and I think that there's going to be more to come with that. But just know that if you're not intentionally trying to do things, wrong or illegally, somebody's going to help you out. So you might pay a little bit more along the way, but I think that has been kind of the toughest aspect for me.
Yeah, Abby and I have known each other a long time, and it's a little surprising how many of our recent conversations have been about taxes and insurance. I will definitely say for folks who are on their way through, I know some of you have gone through accelerator programs. I'm looking at Eric on this, but Launch Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, the small business teams there do have resources. I wish I had gone looking for some of those a little bit earlier in my journey and didn't have to figure it out on my own. The first time I got a letter back from the state on unemployment withholding, like that letter came in, and I was scared to open it because I was sure I'd done something wrong. Like, oh, I messed up. They were just confirming that the withdrawal had happened as it was supposed to. So also don't be afraid of your mail. Dwayne, something you have?
I would say the biggest challenge is funding. So especially if we're starting this journey later when we have families, we already have bills, and you're trying to implement this big idea. So it's almost like a chicken and an egg situation, whereas do I go out and just get customers, and how do I get customers, or how do I build the thing? So especially being a Black founder with less than 1% being backed by VCs, that was probably the biggest challenge that I faced, building a team without the funding, building the actual software without the funding, and the requirements that was put upon me to even receive the funding from some of the VCs sometimes was discouraging. So I really had to kind of take a step back and kind of understand why I'm doing this and keep that at the forefront. And then obviously resilience and going through that to eventually closing the funding, which, like you said, the high fives after that are amazing when, similar like you said, Bob, you're at the very bottom of that bank account, but you have to pay a few employees, you have to buy the ticket to go out of state wherever you're trying to implement something. So that was probably the biggest challenge. That is a continuing challenge of fundraising, but surround yourself with good people, the organizations, like you said, that are out here to help, as well as just really being creative at that point. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
And then, one thing that I did right away too was I went and leased my car. As soon as I got my EIN number for Solar Bear, I went and leased a car. And I'm sitting across the desk from Richard out at White Bear Mitsubishi, and we're like talking, and and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this, Bob?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Richard, I because it's a higher interest rate, right? Because Solar Bear doesn't have a trade line, but I did it, and I'm glad I did it because now Solar Bear has all the credit it needs, right? It's got all the big names, and it's okay now. But I had to bite the bullet in the beginning, but I was able to build that trade line, which allowed me to get the other credit cards in Solar Bear's name. So that was really how I kind of did that. And then, of course, I did go to the Neighborhood Development Center, which did a entrepreneur kind of training. And then I took out the loan from the Neighborhood Development Center because I needed to pay off that loan to get the minority certifications. I haven't, and here's the crazy thing. I haven't had to use any of I don't have any certifications because I've never even had to use the certifications yet. People just want to work with me. So I did all that literally to get jobs that now jobs just come to me and I don't even need any of these certifications. So, but that was, I had to get the loan paid off to be able to get for the federal. And so I'm prepared, basically put it that way. But it all started with just leasing a vehicle.
Yeah. I definitely think one of the things I like pause with this one because the funding aspect for startups and small businesses in energy is so tricky. If you are in a service model and you're selling something that you could be getting revenue, let's say within 3 months of standing things up, even if it's not the revenue you expected, it's a very different thing than some of the folks we know who are in product development for 2 or 3 years and are counting on, okay, the product is ready, I need people to start buying it, and there's a gap there too, right? So I'm looking at some of our folks in the room who are in that space, and so for those of you who are trying to start a business and you're falling into these, these valleys where you have a gap, and we know a lot of folks who are in the debt side. We're building up a better investor community here. I think state and federal funding are trying to do more to figure out if you are not a unicorn business that the Gates, Breakthrough Energy is going to invest in, and you're not a deployment, traditional business like that. Like, there's just not as many solutions for you. And then everybody just says, well, you're an entrepreneur. That's part of just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, right? You'll prove yourself worthy if you wait long enough. And I will have none of that. Like, that is just a way to have innovation fail, to have people fail, to have businesses fail. So if you are in that spot, that is a place we'd like to help. I don't have all the answers, but we will try and connect you to the resources you need. Because I love hearing the stories of like what people have been through because I admire them and I don't want them to have to do it, right? Like, you shouldn't have had to try so hard, Dwayne. It's not right. So, okay, let's round some things out here with any other moments of success or your biggest proud moment or the moment when, hey, I'm gonna make it. Any of those you could leave folks with today?
Yeah. So one of my big proud moments is just part of my mission of ensuring that it's about community growth, upward mobility. So, and this is not even really with Inspires, with my previous solar company. What we did was hire and train reentry community members. So by focusing on that, we were able to offer about 20 different reentry community members within Nextlight, and 3 of them now have their own companies. And that was just because they were able to have an opportunity where they were able to learn skills, and they weren't really kind of hunted by the stigma of reentering from incarceration. So that was probably my big success and proud moment, because success is only about how many others you help get to success as well. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I guess for my business, it's a consulting service, and so I have contracts with various communities, nonprofit organizations, and initially started with one like $18,000 job with the city of Hopkins, and just had a great summer. Kind of just low key, took some time to myself, and then things started coming my way. We responded to RFPs. We started getting things. And so I don't know if it was like a moment, but I think just having had that established reputation helped me a lot. And being one of few people who offer climate planning services in Minnesota helps me a lot. And so just feeling very fortunate and lucky that, people that I've worked with in the past want to work with me again. And so getting those contracts to a place where I have a positive cash flow, where I can have, money to pay myself my salary and stuff, and not, have that anxiety of like, oh, what is this going to look like in 6 months? Am I going to have to drum up business, And so I don't know that it was a moment necessarily, but certainly, about a year and a half into running the business, it got to a point where I felt like it was sustainable, and it was something that I could do, and not have a lot of anxiety of those ups and downs, and a little bit try to control it so that I can hang out in the summer and not have to work too hard.
By not work too hard, you mean build a cabin in the North Woods by hand?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's been really great, and again, kind of reaffirming that this is the place to be, and I think what you're saying resonates a lot with me about I think just the community, and maybe we'll get to this with the advice, but like there are really good people who want to help people in Minnesota. There's a lot of barriers for sure, but finding the right people and networking and helping each other out, I think is really important to being able to take these kinds of leaps and being successful.
Yeah. I would just, like if going down this road, like just being risk adverse, right? Like, I mean, it's very risky to do all this, right? I mean, I don't have kids, so I'm not married, so it's like, it's just Bob that, if he can make peanut butter sandwiches and ramen, right? Like I can just do that, right? Like I can figure it out. I've got skills, and I got a great network. I got lots of friends, so I can figure it out, but that would be probably one of the things that I would say is just having that tolerance of like, well, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And I honestly believe that like what really helped me too was just like going to the gym, lifting weights a lot. I just go to hitting the heavy bag. I mean, something about, motion creates emotion. You know what I mean? Like just that positive mindset. And my aha moment was I used to go out to Barnes & Noble in Roseville. And I haven't been out there for a long time, by the way. Bummer. But I used to go there, and I used to read the solar magazines. And I used to get a iced tea and a peanut butter cookie. And I used to sit there, and I would just a Friday night, just everything into this because I was also doing bouncing. I was bouncing at night too, in Minneapolis. But was it 5 years later, 6 years later? I was in Solar Power World, and I was like, yeah, it was like 6 years later. I'm like in Solar Power World, and that to me was my like, yes, like okay, this thing is gonna start like happening. Like this dream I've had of Solar Bear, this dream I've now have Native Sun, like this is gonna happen, and it's just willing it. But yeah,
That's awesome. All right, we'll close our questions with any other, and we've already heard some advice today, but any other advice that you would offer, and especially thinking about, we very intentionally, we're looking at diverse representation today, and so if you're thinking about what your personal experience was or others from underrepresented communities, really with that lens, but any advice I think everybody here would take, so.
I'll just say, everyone, just like, I don't want to sound like Sylvester Stallone here, but, keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. Like, what does he say? Like, nothing's going to hit you harder than life, but it's not how hard you get hit. It's about how you get hit and how you move forward, and that's how winning's done. And that's really what I believe. And so no matter how many times someone tells me no or yes or that, I will go around you. I will get this done. And that's really been my mindset.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of keep going. I think, start small if you have to start small. A lot of people maybe moonlight a little bit before they get enough to take that leap and need a little bit more assurance around that. But, start somewhere, right? And stay true to your values, stay true to your principles. And, just kind of go after that vision. And then I think the theme has been identifying those key partners, identifying who is good to work with, who will open doors for you. Don't be afraid to cold call somebody and ask to go out to coffee and pick their brains. So I think, yeah, build your network, get started.
Yeah, I would have to say patience. One of the big things is we're in a hurry to reach a certain point where it's really kind of about that journey of building. So that was one of the things that really helped me, as well as not being locked in. So I love Minnesota. I've been here almost 20 years from Philly. And after it was a little tough getting started here, wasn't sure really what to do, I actually started looking out at other states. And that is where I initially got the break I needed to move forward. And with the idea always to come back and obviously do great things here in Minnesota, but just to find your stride and look out and anywhere you can to find the opportunity you need to move forward. Kind of to speak to something you said earlier about around funding and doing what you need to for your business. So the software was kind of challenging getting out there. We're still in product development for quite some time. So part of that being creative is I started kind of consulting under the software company so that I can kind of fund and continue to build. So we started offering all of these other services away from kind of our main mission in order to just keep moving forward. So we all have unique skills, unique perspective and experiences. I would say use those just to continue to move your goals and purpose forward.
I would just make me think of something too real quick. Like I don't recommend this to all of you, but like I'm on like 15 boards, okay, both locally and nationally. Now I just want to say real quick, like you don't have to do that, but like I don't know, I've just been able to network with a lot of good people through those boards and through that volunteering, right? And then obviously my grad programs from the Carlson School of Management and then Maple, have really, centered me into a lot of these spaces, put me in a lot of these spaces. And then I do a lot of these leadership like courses and like cohorts, the Native Rebuilders program from the Bush Foundation, like I do all these things, right? Like I get accepted in them and I do them. I'm going to apply for the NREL program. NREL's telling me, Bob, you need to apply for this program. We got this, energy thing, and so I'm like, okay, but doing all that, everyone, for y'all, like you'll be surprised at the networks and the opportunities and the folks that are in there and the roads that will open up for them, and literally I got people all over the country now that I'm working with.
That seems like a fantastic plug for our co-hosts with Rise and Abe as places to build out your network more significantly. We have time for a couple of questions from the audience. Otherwise, I'm sure all three speakers would be happy to chat either after we wrap up or at some future date. Who has a hand to raise?
Do I have to stand up? Yeah, stand up. How can we help?
Yeah, I would say
Buy their stuff.
awareness. That's probably one of the big ways to help entrepreneurs is spread their mission, spread the goals that they're trying to accomplish, because sometimes just lack of exposure is one of the barriers to like really moving something forward. So anytime you see something to help share on social or let someone know that is interested or you can make a connect, that is probably one of the most effective ways to help.
Follow up to that for you, Dwayne.
Yep.
Who is a good target audience for NSPI? Who specifically would be good to? I realized I wasn't on the mic. Sorry, Nina.
Who is a good target?
Yes, I would say high energy users. So we focus on mid-sized manufacturers, but we rolled out some new solutions here over the last few weeks that help building owners and really start their journey in sustainability by providing them visibility and bill audits just by uploading bills. So building owners and manufacturers.
I've been able to work with OATI, and I'm telling you, these guys are smart because they just know so much. www.nativesun.org. Obviously, because I do, have a salary, I'm able to pick and choose the projects that I do at Solar Bear, right? So I have to update the website because we got like 5 projects I have to update up there that we've completed. But if you see the projects that I do, like they're all, with community, they're all with, there's something, there's a reason behind it, right? And I really do focus in on working with contractors, obviously Minnesota, but, BIPOC, women owned, right? Those are the things that I really specifically focus in on. And I try to get that out into my staff too. Like, we want to focus in on these folks. Federal government's giving me $15 million to go implement this EV project. Okay, well, listen, I want to be able to hire these folks first. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, stuff like that, right? But one of the things too is, one of my employees was actually one of my students. Was a professor, or I was an adjunct professor at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and she sat right in front. And I had a full class. Gabe Chan was like, "Bob, we've got a full class, by the way. You're going to be teaching a full class." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." But she was the only Native student that I had in the class, and I always say she's going to be the future of tribal energy in the future. But I'm trying to groom her, anyways. But she works with me, and I hired her. But it's those kinds of things, right? Like, I'm trying to provide this pathway, for folks to get into this space, right? Because when I first went to Mencia, trust me, it didn't feel too welcoming at first. You know what I mean? And so, but now it's different. I mean, I'm on the board of directors for Mencia now. We're now going to continuously at the conference have a section for Native projects, for Native involvement. I'm so proud of Mencia for doing this. They were just videotaping the Prairie Island project, and the powwow this last weekend. So it's just things like that, like, that's how I think you can help and you can support.
I think I have a little bit of a different response. It's more, what can we do to get our communities to do more, right? And put pressure on your city councils, volunteer for sustainability commissions, green teams, those kinds of things. Vote for candidates who put climate and energy on their platforms. Kind of pushing from the ground up and getting more communities involved, getting more communities to do this work. And then kind of on the flip side is we need people to do the work, right? And so I think that a huge focus of these federal funding opportunities is around workforce development and training and job opportunities. And so we need more people in those spaces to create those opportunities, to connect people to those opportunities. Is that my time?
Nope.
And so I think that, filling in those gaps and filling in those spaces is really key, and making those connections so that your work can get out there, the software can get where it needs to get, people are there to install it. Solar installation is huge, right? There's tons of money being poured into solar and getting it into the communities that would most benefit from it, and making sure that those job opportunities are happening too. And so making sure that as you're putting pressure on your local officials, you're also, talking about where the benefits land and what job opportunities are being created. So put the pressure on.
Can I one more time?
Oh, Bob, do you have something to share? Okay.
Hey, I ran for city council, and I wasn't trying to win everyone. I'm going to tell you the truth. What I found out is that the woman from the Hmong Farmers Association ran for the city council, and she got the foundations to listen to her. And that's how she got her money. And she got to start the Hmong Farmers Association. So anyways, I remember that. And so I ran for city council, and I wasn't trying to win. Sorry, Amy, because I was running against Amy Brenmoen. And I was just trying to get noticed, right? Well, long story short, everyone, I didn't win, but that's okay. But what I did get was I got appointed to the Climate Justice Advisory Board. I got appointed to the Ramsey County Workforce Innovation Board. There we did some really great work around the green jobs and stuff. And I'm down at the city council, and I'm like, we have the Green Career Day. And so my point being to that story is that you don't always have to win to win. You know what I mean? Like, I lost the race, but I got to do the two things that I wanted to do in the city. And now those two things that I was advocating for are like happening, through the work that I did with Russ, and then to do the work that I did with Ling. And I'm so proud of that now.
So fake run for office.
You might, but be prepared I was prepared to, if I had to, right?
I just want to be clear. I'm not co-signing that, but putting yourself in a position to do great things. That's the universal truth. We'll take.
I want to add one point quick is just to connect. This is, I did the Climate Action Resilience Plan for the City of St. Paul that includes establish the Climate Justice Advisory Board, which Bob is on. And so it's like all of these things are connected. And so find where you connect and fit in and jump on board.
Katie, you get the last question of the day.
Awesome, thank you. I don't need it.
You do.
I mean,
It's a recording.
it's
You
kind
do.
of, I know,
Just do
but
it.
it's just kind of funny. Hi, Katie from Carva. Nice to meet you. Bob, I'm just wondering when your documentary's coming out, because you've brought me to tears and chills twice, and that's not that often. So you are incredibly inspiring, even more than Nina could have said. So I would love for you to create one. I think it'd be awesome. Share it with everyone.
Yeah. So let's see, August 19th, I think, is when the documentary crew is coming through here. So they're coming from Stanford to Yale, and it's being financed by Patagonia. So what they want to do is I had to go buy an electric bike last weekend, by the way, because it's called Riding on Sunshine, the electric bike. Yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did. And so I have to ride a bike, and they're going to talk to me, I guess, is what they're going to do for the documentary. Yeah. And then I'm getting an award next week from out in Baltimore. Yeah. I shouldn't say anything. But the EPA person's going to give me an award next week out in Baltimore. And, Bezos are fun, that stuff. But Dr. Cecilia Martinez, our Cecilia. Yeah. That's, so I was shocked when they told me that. So I was really excited about that. But yeah, a lot more things are happening. I had PBS come in. They're doing 50 states of sustainability. I don't know when this thing's going to air. And then there's another one that's coming up to do what they want to do, a film. So I'm trying to hold them off, and then I'm trying to finish up this interview with Canary Media, and then there's another one coming out, Center for Rural Affairs. We just did an interview for that too.
Yeah. If you want more Bob content, we did interview him on City Corner, so you can.
Yeah,
Click for more Bob content.
And then I'm on I got asked to be on the Care 11 advisory board. So if any of y'all have stories that you think should be around climate change or something, let me know. I'll let them know.
Okay, since that wasn't really a question, though I appreciate where it led us. One more question? Okay. I am tremendously appreciative of these three folks. These stories, these experiences, their success, all the gnarly stuff that came before the success. Can we get a round of applause for these folks? Just absolutely incredible. I think it's too easy for the stories of energy, climate, clean tech founders to get lost in Minnesota because we have some really large players doing big things. We're really fortunate for that. I'm grateful for all the big organizations. And we have an entrepreneurship community here. I'm looking at Brian as I say this because it's been in med tech and ag and life sciences, and that's all great. But this is the future. This is what is going to help us really move the dial on climate and our energy goals and the building of the green economy. And we can't do it without supporting them and any of you in this room who have those aspirations. So if we can help as Grid Catalyst, please let us know. I'm going to make 2 more plugs. Our application for our demonstration cohort, which is funded by Minnesota Energy Alley. Thank you, Minnesota Energy Alley, as Department of Commerce and Clean Energy Economy Minnesota partnership. So those applications are due August 2nd. If you want to be piloting your innovation in Minnesota next year, this is the path to do it. Come talk to us. We have Minnesota Clean Tech Innovation Summit coming up on September 24th. That'll be at the University of Minnesota. This is on our events page on our website. Also made possible by Minnesota Energy Alley. It's the day after the Electroposium, which is all about electrification at McNamara. That's a free event. So you can go to 2 awesome days of energy nerd goodness at the University of Minnesota. Monday is free, Tuesday is $40. Can't beat it. Hope to see you all there. So thank you for coming out. Let us know how we can help as we keep building great things. Thanks.
Also, please have some banana bread. Definitely.
Just forgot a way to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Jason, we work with Jason, so.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah.
That's my boy.
All the great
That's
things
my
you do,
boy.
so.
Yep,
Yep.
that's my boy. Yep, Jason's my boy.
Now I get to line up to like pepper you with questions, right?
That's the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Betsy.
Betsy?
Well,
Yeah, nice to meet you. Here's Sean. It's fun.
yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I was thinking we should take a picture. We should take a
Very,
picture.
very, very.
Hey, Nina, should we take a picture? Yeah.
One of my noticed.
Yeah.
And
I asked her. She used to work for Arbor Day Foundation. But I also think you might know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like her name, Kim Morrow. She's LinkedIn. Who was on the podcast.
Yeah.
So the only reason I mentioned Elena is
Super cool. Google was actually one of the supporters of other big tech promoting
she was at Arbor Day.
I was like, I never know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Organization.
So anyway, just wanted. I assume that you knew her a little bit better. So.
Okay. Yeah. I might just be my yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. Love it.
Can you stand on that background? Go on the other side of Abby. Kevin, go on the other side of Abby.
Suck it in here.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Change makers. I'll get in here. Put together like these guys. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Thanks, you guys.
Okay, so you were saying.